Navigating a relationship with a highly narcissistic person carries a very specific type of physical exhaustion. You are constantly bracing yourself, trying to predict the unpredictable shifts between hot-blooded outbursts and a manufactured, calculating cold rage. Our goal today is to provide the tactical tools needed to de-escalate these outbursts. You are going to learn how to manage these encounters by focusing on your own physiological and psychological reactions. To do that, we have to look at what triggers the hostility in the first place. These episodes almost always stem from a perceived slight, a boundary you tried to set, or a drop in the attention they demand, something psychologists call a narcissistic injury. Looking at this clinical text on narcissistic traits, we can see why the reaction is so volatile. Narcissistic individuals typically cannot self-regulate their emotions. When they experience an ego injury, it triggers deep, unprocessed shame, which instantly sets off the disproportionate rage response. A real-time trade-off is happening during these outbursts. By lashing out and destabilizing your environment, the abuser is successfully reducing their own internal tension and maintaining their grandiose facade. When you recognize this, you realize you aren't trying to solve a communication breakdown or a logic puzzle. You are dealing with a psychological projection that needs to be managed. This text highlights how tactics like minimization and blame shifting are used intentionally. The abuser will deliberately provoke you, making false accusations or completely minimizing your reality to get a reaction. Looking at this section on the sympathetic nervous system, we can see exactly what happens inside your body next. When your reality is attacked, your brain registers it as a primal threat. Your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, flooding your body with adrenaline and preparing you for fight or flight. Under that intense biological pressure, your natural instincts take over. You might snap, yell back, or aggressively attempt to defend yourself. This diagram maps out the trap they've set. The moment you react with your own anger, the cycle shifts. They immediately point to your emotional release, label you as the unstable aggressor, and shift the blame entirely onto you. In their mind, this outcome is a complete victory. Your reaction provides them with proof that you are the problem, which conveniently absolves them of all accountability for their initial abuse. The ultimate danger here is allowing your natural, biological defense mechanisms to be weaponized against you. Your first line of defense against this trap is inserting a deliberate, physical pause before you respond to any attack. This text on trauma explains how our brain processes danger. Sensory input is first processed by the thalamus, which acts as a hook, and then sent immediately to the amygdala, which acts as your body's smoke detector. Looking at this neural pathway diagram, notice the low road. The amygdala senses a threat and reacts faster than conscious thought, recruiting your stress hormones before logic has a chance to intervene. When you force a physical pause, you buy your brain milliseconds of time. This allows the slower, high-road pathway to engage, keeping your prefrontal cortex online so you can assess the situation logically instead of reacting defensively. Staying silent when you are being falsely accused feels deeply unnatural. It feels incredibly unfair to absorb an attack without defending your character. But forcing that painful pause is the only way to shield your biology from triggering an automatic trauma response. Once your logical brain is engaged, you have to reframe what you're hearing. You must view their rage as an externalization of their own shame, not as an accurate assessment of your worth. This excerpt breaks down a communication strategy known as the gray rock method.
It involves utilizing flat, unemotional, and extremely brief responses, like, "I see," "interesting," or simply, "no." This comparison table outlines exactly what to avoid when interacting with a highly toxic person, known as the DEEP protocol. You do not defend, you do not engage, you do not explain, and you do not personalize. As this text explains, avoiding the instinct to defend yourself cuts off their supply. Narcissistic individuals thrive on the drama, the validation, and the energy you spend trying to correct them. When you stop giving them that fuel, the dynamic starves. When you first implement this, be prepared for an extinction burst. The abuser will likely escalate their rage, trying desperately to provoke the attention they are suddenly being denied. True victory in these relationships isn't found in winning the argument. It is found in refusing to supply the energy required to have one in the first place. Communication tactics alone are not enough. You have to establish physical boundaries by stating clear, behavior-based limits. For example, if you yell, "I am going to leave the room." The effectiveness of a boundary depends entirely on you enforcing it unconditionally, without offering any further explanation or entering into a debate. If you cave and engage them just this once, you create a dangerous cycle of intermittent reinforcement. You teach them exactly how hard they have to push to get you to break your own rules. Boundaries do not exist to change the abuser's behavior. They exist solely to dictate your own. This passage outlines the flee and fade out strategy. When your boundary is breached, you have to execute a physical or digital exit immediately, whether that means walking away, hanging up the phone, or enforcing strict no contact. By becoming unreactive and removing yourself, you stop providing the emotional reactions, or supply, the narcissist needs to feel in control. When they realize they can no longer provoke you, they often lose interest and end the encounter themselves. This is known as a reverse discard, and it's a way to exit the dynamic while letting them feel like they've won, which can stop active psychological harm in its tracks. There are social trade-offs to this extraction. You will likely face smear campaigns, passive-aggressive dog whistling in public, or loud accusations that you are abandoning them. Once you are physically separated, you have to manage the immediate biological aftermath. Engaging in somatic exercises, like splashing your face with ice water or doing vagus nerve breathing, is critical right after the encounter. Looking at this explanation of the HPA axis, we can see the biological goal of those exercises. You are actively signaling your hypothalamus to halt the release of cortisol and adrenaline, taking your body out of survival mode. Physical extraction only removes the external threat. Intentional biological regulation is required to repair the internal damage. This extraction and recovery matrix maps out your specific options based on your constraints, whether you are tied down by co-parenting responsibilities or have the freedom to walk away completely. You cannot heal a narcissistic person's core wound, but by trading defense for detachment, you can build an impenetrable fortress around your own peace of mind. A crucial caveat: the tactics we've discussed are strictly for navigating emotional and psychological manipulation. If there is any threat of physical violence, you must seek immediate professional intervention. To help you map out your specific boundaries and recovery plan, there is a specialized guide and workbook linked in the description below, or available at traumaunbonded.com. If you found this framework helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more psychological guides on recovery and reclaiming your peace. Take care of yourself.